Start.
Good morning, students. How are you all doing? I believe your classes are going on quickly. This is Precious Akubi, your agricultural science teacher. We've been dealing on farming systems for a while now, and I said farming systems are those approaches, the ways, the methods adopted by various farmers in their farming operations, and they are dependent on different things. Why would a farmer choose this method over another method? I mentioned things like availability of land, the kind of land that is available, availability of land, economic factor, the finance available, cultural factor, geographical factor, and so on and so forth. So these are some things that determine the kind of method or the kind of system a farmer will adopt. If he has enough land, the finance at hand, the cultural factor, the nature of land, and also the nature of soil. And I remember giving an example that if the farmer has a soil that is not fertile, he will prefer to probably rear animals in that kind of land than was planting crops. Then we looked at types of farming systems. I gave you 6 types of farming systems: soil farming, mixed farming, pastoral farming, tongue-like farming, shifting cultivation, also known as bush fallow or land rotation, and lake farming. I believe we've explained number 1 to 4, but I'll briefly run through them to bring us back to what we did. Number 1, soil farming. Soil farming is a type of farming which involves production of either crops or animals on a piece of land. So the farmer does any of the two. So 1, either he focuses on soil farming of crops or of animals. Then we looked at mixed farming, whereby a farmer plants crops and rears animals on the same piece of land. And we went further to explain pastoral farming, which involves rearing animals that feed on forage crops. Forage crops are those legumes and grasses that are grown to feed farm animals. And we explained 2 types of pastoral farming: nomadic and ranching. And I explained nomadic as the movement of grazing animals from one place to another in search of food, green pastures to eat, and water as well. Then ranching has to do with rearing animals in a fenced area of land, and you provide them with feed and water, and you can also take good care of the animals. Then we went further to explain tongue-like farming, and I said in this farming we plant food crops and forest trees together. It could be alternated, 1 row for forest trees, another row for food crops. So alternating them one way or the other, because the land is not big enough. It's only allowed in some certain places whereby they lack land. And I said the forest trees provide a kind of canopy for the food crops. And another disadvantage is that canopy can also prevent sunlight from reaching them, thereby decreasing their photosynthetic ability. Today, we're going to look at shifting cultivation, also known as bush fallow or land rotation. Now, shift cultivation is the practice of farming on a piece of land for a period of time and then abandoning it for another land. Now, why do the farmers farm and then abandon it? They farm on a piece of land for a period of time, and then when the fertility has depleted, they have to go and let the land fallow. How we call it bush fallow. They allow bush to grow on the land again. And then when those grasses or that weed or whatever is grown on the land, they die, they decay, they add kind of organic manure to the soil, and the fertility is regained over time. Also called land rotation, because you might decide to portion your land. You plant on this portion for about 3-5 years, you leave it, you shift another portion, you rotate, thereby allowing each land to regain its fertility before going back to another. What are the advantages of shifting cultivation? Number 1, they discourage build-up of pests and disease, because after a while you leave that land and go to another one, starting afresh. So those pests and diseases that have been built up in the previous land are left there. You go to a fresh land and you start afresh, whereby there is no pests and diseases. Then also number 2, it increases fertility of the soil. Remember I told you that when you allow the land to fallow, it gains its resources or its nutrients after a period of time. and it helps to control erosion because the land is not left bare, the land is not left open. There's always crops covering the land, be it weeds or grasses as the case may be, so it prevents what or helps to control erosion. Also, it reduces farmers' cost of production since no erosion control and fertilizer usage. Normally farmers will do what? They buy fertilizers to help replenish the nutrients that has been lost. But since you are doing it naturally in an organic way, you don't need to buy fertilizers, hence you save cost of production. But to every advantage, there is always a disadvantage. Disadvantages of shifting cultivation. It can best be practiced in a low population density areas. Now, most times in our cities, we have limited land available, being that the human population is increasing by the day, so we have to do what? Construct houses, hospitals, schools, as the case may be. So it can only be practiced where the population is low, whereby you can leave this land and come back to it again. That is a disadvantage. Number two, it requires a lot of labor to recultivate after the fallow. Where the bush is there, you need people to do what? Clear up the bushes, or you need to buy big machines to help you clear the land, and recultivating is very, very tedious and it's difficult. Alright, so that is the advantage and disadvantage of shifting cultivation. Quickly, let's look at lay farming. Lay farming is the cultivation of food crops and forage crops. Food crops and forage crops. Remember I told you forage crops are those crops that are grown to feed farm animals alone, purposely for the purpose of what? Feeding farm animals, and they could be grasses or legumes. So what you do, you grow them alternatively. This year you plant food crops, probably you plant tomatoes, you plant maize or rice, beans on the farmland. Then after harvesting them, you do what? You plant forage crops, grasses and legumes, alternatively. What are the advantages of this system? Number one, legumes. Remember the forage crops you can plant are grasses and legumes. So now the legumes help to do what? Add nitrogen to the soil. They help to fix nitrogen into the soil because legumes incorporate what? Nitrogen into the soil. So it's an advantage of alternating food crops and forage crops. Number two, it encourages the production of forage crops to feed farm animals. 3. Soil erosion is controlled. The land is not left bare at any point in time. After harvesting food crops, you do what? Plant your forage crops. Number 4. It helps to reduce the build-up of pests and disease agents on a farmland. Being that after the food crops, the pests and disease that affect them cannot go on affecting grasses, so they die out naturally. So it helps to do what? Reduce the build-up of pests and diseases. Disadvantages of lay farming. Number 1, it is not easy to practice, hence the system is not popular because I might be a farmer good in planting food crops, but I don't know how to manage forage crops, or I'm used to forage crops, but I don't know how to manage food crops. So alternating food crops and forage crops is a very, very technical task that is not easy to practice. Number 2, the forage crops usually becomes weeds on the farm and are often difficult to eradicate. Remember we said we're dealing with grasses and legumes. So they tend to become weeds on the farm and they are difficult to do eradicate. So that for farming system. We looked at soil farming, mixed farming, pastoral farming, sunlight farming, shifting cultivation, which is also known as bush fallow and land rotation, and we looked at lay farming. Remember, soil farming has to do with just one type of production. Either you are producing crops or you are producing animals. Mixed farming, both animals and plants are reared on the same piece of land. Pastoral farming is growing animals that feed on forage crops and is divided into 2, nomadic and ranching. Number 4, sunlight farming is planting food crops and forest trees on the same piece of land. 5, shifting cultivation, also known as bush fallow, is cultivating a land for a period of time, leaving it and shifting to another place to enable the land regain its lost fertility. And lay farming has to do with planting food crops and forage crops alternatively. So that is that for farming systems. Now next time we're going to look at cropping systems. So listen attentively alongside your notes and ask any question after the class. Remember to stay safe in this period of COVID-19. Always use your nose pads. I'm talking, that's why I had to bring mine down so that the voice can be audible enough. make sure you make use of your alcohol-based sanitizer if you don't have water and soap. But when you have water and soap, always wash your hands as often as possible. It's not too much. It's very easy to do. Wash your hands with soap and water. Always sneeze or cough into your pen